Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to Hollywood Backlot with Lou and you. My name is VashSky, your host for today's ceremonies. And to my right, it looks like the one, the only LW Ghost has joined us spectacularly today. Hello there, sir. How are you doing today?
Hello. I'm so far so good. Let me tell you something. A secret of life for all of you young folks out there. Get a comfy chair. My old one was wearing out, and I bought a new one, and gosh, my butt is happy. But so's the rest of me. So's the rest of me.
Exactly. Yeah, I would recommend definitely get the nice chair, and your life will be much happier. And don't, if you can avoid it, don't stand for your live streams, because when you get to the 3, 4, maybe 5 hour mark on those things, you're going to be questioning your life choices.
Yeah, but you're playing the air guitar keyboard the whole time, so there's that to distract you.
Yes.
Those of you who haven't seen the full screen of when Vash is doing it from his blue grotto where he's on location from today, but he's up there just picking and grinning on that keyboard in a way that I admire and could not emulate. So,
indeed, people might be asking where I might be, and I will tell you that I am on a journey. I'm on a journey to discover, and story living by Disney, and figure out what exactly the next venture for the company might be out here. And it's been interesting, to say the least. That's for sure. Let's see here. Who do we have joining us right here? Tom F. in the chat right there. Thank you so much for joining us. Ken Reinhardt, thank you. DL Fendel, of course. Juliet, Jan Monroe, and Deborah, thank you so much for joining us today on this amazing show. Let's see here. I think first, we'd be remiss if we didn't start out with the one, the only, the legendary Val Kilmer, unfortunately passing away earlier this week from battles with pneumonia, and I believe he had ongoing complications from throat cancer, if I'm not mistaken, right there.
Yeah.
Just incredible.
So I guess technically that short scene from the second Maverick movie was his finale on the screen.
Yeah, and I do concur with Pro's assessment, talking about that, how it's pretty brave to have done that in that way, and actually pass away on screen, and allow for audiences to say goodbye one last time.
Talented man. I mean, his whole career when he was, remember what was it called, True Genius, which was very young, and then playing the Doors, and yes, I have that dubious or interesting distinction of having had the Doors actually play one of the dances at my high school when they were starting out. So,
really?
Yeah. We had the Doors, we had Three Dog Night, we had a bunch of the Poco, the bands of the era.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Back in the days when the psychedelic light show consisted of a petri dish on an overhead projector with dye droppers. Remember that? Or you wouldn't remember that, but anyway, some of you out there would.
Val Kilmer, a homegrown Hollywood actor who tasted leading man stardom as Jim Morrison in Batman, but whose protein gifts, I believe, and elusive personality also made him a high-profile supporting player. Died on Tuesday in Los Angeles. He was 65. The cause was pneumonia, said his daughter, Mercedes Kilmer. Mr. Kilmer was diagnosed with throat cancer in 2014, but later recovered, she said. Tall and handsome in a rock star sort of way, Mr. Kilmer was in fact cast as a rocker a handful of times early in his career when he seemed destined for blockbuster success. He made his feature debut in the slapstick Cold War spy movie spoof Top Secret in 1984, in which he starred as a crowd-pleasing, hip-shaking American singer in Berlin, unwittingly involved in a East German plot to reunite the country. Tombstone, Heat, The Doors, Top Gun, Batman
Which,
Forever.
by the way, as I was mentioning to you, we're a little slow off the mark. Unfortunately, our great actors are dropping like great actors sometimes do. But we are recording for the Genre Guys tonight one of Gene Hackman's great performances, which is Crimson Tide. And then next week, we're going to do Tombstone finally, which we should have done sooner, but Tombstone. I was watching an interview with Michael Bain. I forget how you pronounce his last name, who played Johnny Ringo, and he talked about how the guys that played the bad guys hung out with the bad guys, and the guys that were good guys on the set, off the set, at lunch, whatever. They didn't mingle much because they wanted to keep that edge between them. And so he said, obviously, I worked with Val, but I didn't get to know him that well on that. I got to know him later, but we were all keeping our distance.
Wow.
So, the method and all that sort of thing.
Wow.
And then, as I told you, my wife grew up in the town where Doc Holliday had his original dental office before he went west. So, in Georgia. So,
just
there.
Oh man, just absolutely wild. I mean, so prolific. I didn't even know this, by the way. I was doing the research right now. Shauna Martin, I wanted to mention that in doing research for an article about Zorro, I found out that Val Kilmer played Zorro in a radio play style from the excerpt that I heard. It was fantastic. Val Kilmer voiced Zorro in an audio drama adaptation of, quote, The Mask of Zorro, was nominated for a Grammy for Best Spoken Word Album in 2012 for his performance. Whoa! Didn't even know.
An incarnation of the fox I was not aware of. Yes.
Don
Diego de la Vega. As he was
that I gotta hear now, because Val Kilmer had a very nice voice indeed.
Yes, and I'm sure he did the accent wonderfully and subtly, rather than the standard gringo does Mexican thing that a lot of people fall into the trap of.
Right. That's a good point. Yes, we will be talking about this very shortly right here, that's for sure, because boy, oh boy, do we have more information on that. But just incredible talent. And
there's a movie. Oh, wow. Heat.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh. I watched that again recently, and maybe, I don't know, a month ago. And boy, does it hold up. And between Pacino and De Niro and Val, that's got to be a good movie. You put those three guys in the same thing, and then
how could it be bad?
Yeah, well, it was pretty rough. It was pretty hard. It was pretty bloody, but gee, it was good. If you haven't seen that lately or at all, you should watch Heat, folks.
Yes, absolutely. And I had heard somewhere, maybe this was just a folklore, but apparently the way that Val Kilmer reloaded his AR-style rifle there, it might have provided training for FBI agents or something like that.
I don't know.
Something like that.
I don't know. Well, of course, they used to do those double clips taped together so they could just...
Yes. Yeah. Which is, by the way, a good plot point in, what is it, Die Hard 2.
Yeah, but if you're in the FBI and you need a second clip, you're not doing your job.
Yeah.
Back in the day when they used to give tours and tell you about the FBI, the first thing they told you was, we don't shoot to wound.
Yes.
We just don't. That isn't the policy of the company.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. But just, it goes on and really, really amazing. Oh, this is an interesting one. James Alday. Does anybody else think that Val Kilmer would have been a great Steve Rogers / Captain America if they made a Captain America movie in the 1990s? That's a good point.
Yeah.
It would have been great for that. Would have been absolutely fantastic. But so good. Obviously, Top Gun and Top Gun Maverick being his basically his final role there. Very, very cool. So sad to see him go. There's a great New York Times article going over his life and so forth. I highly recommend everybody actually read it in order to learn more about him. He was so prolific, and he was such a remarkable actor. Did so many amazing things that even this didn't have everything in there. So I will go ahead and post this in the chat right there, so that way everybody has it for reading later on, because it is worth going over in detail.
Yes, we give you things now, and we give you things to play with later. Are we great or what?
I see we're the best.
And we even provide music, for goodness sakes. We should get to that and get it out of the way.
Yes. Let's go ahead and do that right now.
For this week's jukebox, which, if you're not aware of it, if you haven't been with us the last few weeks, what we found is, frankly, a way around the whole YouTube issues. of playing clips and music, which is to find somebody else who doesn't seem to care and play their clips. So we give you links to 2 pieces from a thing called FM, Classic FM, which is a wonderful, wonderful YouTube channel taken from a British actual radio, so to speak, or online channel that features great symphonic performances and other things from great music, classical and movie. And in this case, it's the Liverpool Phil at the Royal Albert Hall doing Pirates of the Caribbean. And you want to turn your speakers way the heck up, folks, and just go for it. And then if that wasn't enough, we also gave you this week from the same channel, Lord of the Rings, which is, of course, softer in some ways. But again, the power of when I watch these things of these big orchestras playing this music, whether it's where you see live scoring sessions for a film or whether you see these concert presentations, as great as it would be to be in the audience, imagine what it's like to be in that orchestra in the middle of all that music and all the different pieces that go together. And my God, in these things, I mean, how many timpani are there back there? About 8, 10, 12. That's a whole lot of kettle drumming going on, gang.
Yeah,
But,
we can only afford
anyway.
one side of the timpani here on Backlot.
well.
Backlot with New News. So.
If you only had one side, it would be, are you ready? The unfinished timpani. Anyway, these things pop in my head. I can't help it. None of this is premeditated, people. I just say what comes out. So
It's just
for better.
that's how his mind works.
Yeah, is that how it works? Thank God it works at all. Working mind in a comfy chair. There's my formula for success, everyone.
Definitely check out.
Anyway, there's our musical tributes for this session, and I encourage you to enjoy them. Yeah.
Which are available, by the way, in the chat. Just went ahead and posted those, and also in the description of this video right now. So if you're listening to after the fact, and you can't get the chat to line up there, well, they're going to be in the description as well. Definitely check out both of these. Lou has some amazing recommendations every single week, so definitely support and give some views there, and musically, sonically, you will have been better for it.
I just love good music. That's all. I just love good music, and my definition is, I don't know. Dick Clark, right? Can you dance to it? I give it an 8, Dick, and it's got a good downbeat and all of that. But anyway,
indeed,
that's that part of it. You see, you mentioned Top Secret, and I look and I see WDW Pro uploaded Disney Falls completely out of latest Nielsen. And the first thing I was thinking of was Leslie Nielsen, because apparently Liam Neeson is doing a remake of the Naked Gun movies.
Naked Gun movie.
Yeah.
It's an interesting trailer, I will say, and I agree with Tom's assessment of this, Tom from Midnight's Edge. The OJ joke at the very end was pretty funny. That's a pretty good one right there.
Yeah.
So
Nordberg, I think they gave him a name like that, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty great. That's pretty good. Definitely check that out if you have not seen it already. I'm very curious.
I know
to see.
for most people of the modern era, they know Leslie Nielsen primarily as a comedian.
Right.
But, I grew up with him as the Swamp Fox on Disney and playing a lot of serious stuff. And when he suddenly found out, oh, gee, I can be funny too, what a career that created for him, a second career.
Yeah, Leslie Nielsen would have. I always envisioned him as he would have been a really great straight man, or really amazing at more serious.
And he was. He was a good hero. Go look at the Adventures of the Swamp Fox if you doubt me. Playing Francis Marion, the famous Swamp Fox of the Revolutionary War in the South.
Wow. It's
anyway.
I gotta check that out. I gotta check it out because I haven't seen much of his earlier.
I even remember. See, this is music. I remember the theme song. The Disney, how they did theme songs for all those heroes like Scarecrow and Zorro, of course. But the Swamp Fox was Swamp Fox, tail in his hat. Nobody knows where the Swamp Fox at. Swamp Fox riding through the glen, he'll run away to fight again. That was the theme song. So now you know the rest of the story, which is have a happy butt and a good ear for music, but I can't sing worth a damn. Anyway,
there you go, right there.
There you go. Francis Marion, a real person and a very interesting person when you read up on him.
Indeed. Indeed. Oh man, Leslie, good stuff right there. Going to be very curious to see how the Naked Gun, or as it should be titled, the Son of the Naked Gun, will fare. Speaking of movies
Son
that
of
are
a gun
faring,
was Joey Bishop's catchphrase. So, there you go.
Speaking of movies that are faring pretty well, apparently that's Minecraft. My goodness gracious. Lou, have you seen the box office numbers coming out of this film?
Insane. And what's doubly insane is there was an interesting story about the fact that somebody stole it and leaked it online, and it didn't hurt the box office at all.
Yes.
What a shocker. That's supposed to be the terrible thing, that it kills it. Everybody goes to see it for free at home instead of in the theaters. But no, it just shows you, if you want to be deep dive philosophical about it, that the experience of going to the movies is still one we love and we crave. And when they put all this crap out there like Snow White and the rest of them, they're not just, financially stupid. They're killing an experience that we like. So we're desperate to find a good one, and we do, if there is.
Correct. And Disney knows.
Because there's been this past week, I should explain. I forget what it's called, but there's been the big convention in Vegas. CinemaCon. That's it. And all of these people giving seminars on how movie theaters are going to. I actually wrote a story for that Park Place. How well they're building many more large format screen theaters with all the IMAX and special effects and all the rest of it. I see where they're actually going to put the Wizard of Oz into the Sphere in Vegas as a immersive.
I saw that.
And then there's these articles about, we're thinking if we let people text and let them smoke pot in the theater, they'll have a better time. And I'm going, you're investing millions in building these theaters. You're talking about all these variations. Here's the problem. It's not the experience of going to the movies. It's the movie that you're going to see or not, because they stink. And all of the theater enhancements and larger screens and therefore higher prices in the world won't help if the movie sucks. So there you go.
Yes.
That's
indeed.
one of the 2 or 3 stories that are out there about things announced. But that one about, hey, what if we let people smoke dope and text on their phones at the theater? That'll make it better. Well, maybe so, but not for me or anybody else who wants to actually watch the movie.
Yes. It's everything else but actually creating great cinema.
Which is outside of their ability to do it as exhibits.
Correct.
But remember, we've seen this all happen before. When television came in, everybody rushed to widescreen, to CinemaScope and Tadeo and VistaVision, because, hey, we can make it bigger than that crappy television in your house. And when that didn't work, they tried 3D and they tried smell-o-vision and all kinds of different things, saying we can give you an experience you can't have at home. And then the smart people, like a certain Mr. Wasserman, said, no, we're going to do television. But we're going to do good television, and we're going to give you something worth staying home and watching ads for. So
it's interesting. There are so many reasons as to why I think theatrical has really suffered, especially post-pandemic. And one of those, I think, would be the windowing practices, right? Because it's just, if windowing's too short, everybody knows, if I just wait a while, I can see.
Well, but that's the other thing about this window issue.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, everyone, for those who haven't heard me rattle on about this before, when you hear that it's roughly a 50-50 split between the studio and the movie theater, that's not really very accurate, because, first of all, you should know they take off a thing called the house nut before they ever start splitting. And the house nut is everything from the cost of the minimum wage moron who tears your ticket to the popcorn to the snack bar stuff. So that comes off the top. So the theater breaks even on that in theory. But then it's about an 80-20 split for the first couple of weeks. And as the time goes on, the theater gets a bigger percentage and the movie studio gets a smaller percentage, and eventually it works out theoretically to 50-50. The problem being, what if it doesn't last that long? What if,
Correct.
have you seen the third weekend numbers yet on Snow White? If you thought weekend 2 was bad, oh my God.
Yeah, let me bring that up right now, actually.
So the point is, when they talk about, well, we'll guarantee a window of, they're talking 45 days. One of the, I think it was the guy from AMC, might have been, said we've gotten 3 of the 6 major studios to agree to that. Well, this window thing is important for a lot of reasons, because first of all, you might remember there was this massive lawsuit that Scarlett Johansson put in and got settled for a lot of money, because when these people get deals that say a percentage of the gross, they're talking about the movie theater gross, not the streaming or whatever, which in some cases is hard to compute anyway, because I mean, at least if you license it to Netflix for X million dollars, you've got a number to deal with. But if you're doing it for something like Disney Plus, where the payoff is in subscriber numbers or lack thereof, how do you figure that out to pay an actor a percentage, or a director or a writer or somebody like that? So what they do is they do it based on theatrical. But when they decided to break the movie day and date, or shortly thereafter, both at home and at the theater, it's right for the participant at the theater to say, wait a minute, you've cut into that audience. You've limited my ability to make money. Now, it goes beyond that, because, of course, the scales being paid in the contract with writers and directors and everybody else are different between quote unquote TV and streaming and theatrical movies. And when a movie that was made for one is put out as the other, suddenly everybody should be paid a bump, because they weren't getting what it really turned out to be. You see what I mean? So this whole idea again that, well, we're going to guarantee a window, that'll solve the problem. Not if nobody goes.
Yeah, exactly.
What
And
if a window, but nobody came, or paid.
I'll applaud Disney for having one of the longest windows in the industry. Obviously, that's, there's more at play than just them playing nice there. But again, like you said, it doesn't matter if nobody actually goes to these things. Snow White earned $1.5 million on Friday. Domestic gross now stands at $72 million.
They're not going to make
$100.
They're not going to make 100.
Yep.
And that's just. But you got to remember, back in the day, when home video became a thing, when VHS and Betamax were a thing, lots of less than stellar movies, basically the theatrical release was an advertising campaign for the discs or the cassettes. It was a loss leader. And that's when, as I've said, the dimensions changed of movie posters, because because VHS boxes were long and skinny, and the standard movie poster was a little fatter and a little shorter, and they would have to pay an artist to reconfigure it and still get all the contractual stuff about whose billing comes before who, right? And they said, well, screw it, we'll just make the posters a different shape. Oh, speaking of posters, I don't know if the sad news has reached everyone, but if you watched on the Pro Channel and eventually here, the wonderful documentary that we covered on Drew Struzan, the guy who did all the great posters, all the great movies of our recent era, his wife came out and announced that he has Alzheimer's and is fading fast, and that's very sad, very sad.
That's very, very sad, because Drew his work is just
amazing talent, amazing talent,
absolutely incredible. And I'm sure if you were to put in a movie, generate a movie poster for such and such a movie, and some AI, large language model or something like that, that would probably be your main inspiration, because he was just that prolific. Oh, so
anyway,
talented. But
that's what's around that whole horn, but again, guys, it doesn't matter whether you're smoking dope or watching a 45-day window if you're the only guy in the theater, because it stinks and everybody else heard about it and you were too busy smoking dope to hear that. So,
yeah, and speaking of doing drugs in the theater, there we have a great article on that Marketplace talking about that. Marvin Montanaro. If you didn't think
There you
this
go.
was a thing. It is absolutely a thing. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat
Well,
as
of course,
well
it's a
there.
thing for longer than we realize, because I remember when 2001 came out and there was that amazing sequence at the end with all the psychedelic lights of going through the monolith and into this other world.
Yep.
People literally tried to time their drugs so that they kicked in right about at that moment in the movie. At what point in the 2 hours and whatever it is that starts, I want to be X number of minutes before that I pop my LSD in the movie theater. So that's just the way people are. What can I
A
say?
lot of people believe that that's.
And at the same time, there was no home video to take it home and do it yourself. So that was the only way you could do it. And certainly on a big, wide 70 millimeter screen. I remember I saw 2001 in London at one of the biggest theaters there when it came out, because I happened to be over there doing some educational activities in England at Oxford, but that's another long story. But wow, was that impressive.
Mm-hmm.
That was amazing.
A lot of people believe that 2001 was saved by that whole movement there. I just want to go ahead and finish this off here. So Snow White has a real risk of not earning $100 million right there, and I believe LW. I think you're correct there. That it very well might not. 157 from the 3-day opening on Minecraft movie. That's projections right now.
Yeah,
that'll be adjusted, but 301. It's global debut on the 3-day.
So what if you wanted to come up with a riddle? It would be, what's the difference between Jack Black and Rachel Zegler? And the answer is, even Jack Black can't kill a movie, and Rachel Zegler kills one just by being in it. So, not that anybody ever put the two of them together.
It's rough.
Together in a movie. No, I don't know.
That's rough, but it's totally true right there. Just a huge explosive 3-day.
And imagine the Jack Black action figures. Or in-action figure, as the case may be.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're out there.
Probably.
And also, too, it's number 2 for video game adaptation movies, only behind Super Mario Brothers movie, at least in the worldwide. But I think in the 3-day, it actually beat Super Mario Brothers movie in the United States. So, I mean, just an absolutely huge historic day there for Minecraft, Warner Brothers, and video game adaptation.
And it shows that you
cinemas.
can have Jason Momoa with his shirt on and still make money.
That's a good point. Also, too, you'll recall that the heads of Warner Brothers were just recently exited from their positions right there. David Zaslav apparently meeting to replace Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi as Warner Brothers heads. So in the wake of Minecraft, in which they should, you would think they would be retained. No, they're being replaced. So it's just a very interesting Hollywood mashup there.
But, they've all been playing musical chairs in the executive suites here for a year or two.
Oh yes.
It's like it took us a while to figure out that it wasn't COVID, and it wasn't no pot in the movie theater, and it wasn't the airplanes that killed beauty. It was the beast called the people who made the go decisions on stinkers for their whatever reason. And sooner or later, that catches up to you.
Sooner or later, it does. Now, speaking of musical chairs, Lou, I want to go ahead and pick your brain about this. I know you wrote an article for that Park Place that is up right now. We will get to that in just a moment. Let's go ahead and pull this up right here.
Yes, well, and you wanted me to, I wasn't going to belabor it, but when you originally wrote the description for our show today, you said it was being vacated. It's Disney that's vacating it. Disney never bought the Fox real estate. They couldn't afford it when they bought, quote unquote, Fox Motion Pictures, and a lot of IP that they have shamefully ignored. But the Fox lot, which at one time was just slightly under 100 acres and is now much less than that, which was because of Cleopatra, when they literally put a lock on the door. You see all that stuff in the, wait, back out again. You see all those skyscrapers and stuff in the background? It's all Fox, including everything over there on the right. That entire block from the golf course to the golf course was the Fox lot at one time. And then they made Cleopatra
Mm-hmm.
and lost their butts and sold all that other stuff, the real estate, to Alcoa, who
Mm-hmm.
built this thing called Century City, as in 20th century. And of course, right smack dab in the middle of all that is the Nakatomi Plaza, aka Fox Plaza, where Die Hard was shot. But I have a lot of history with this stuff. My grandparents lived in those two white buildings over on the right. Beyond that is the high school I went to, Beverly High, complete with its oil well. Um, and when they made Batman on the Fox lot, they used the park down there, the golf course, as Gotham City Central Park. I was over there one time watching them do a show with Victor Buono as King Tut and the Batmobile and all kinds of neat stuff. And so, anyway, it was a huge piece of property. It's still significant. And Disney, when they made the deal to buy the IP and the heritage, so to speak, made a deal to lease part of that lot, mostly offices, really, not so much the sound stages, although they used some of those too. Because a lot of their executives didn't like making a long commute to Burbank, and this is closer because it's on the west side. Well, they were paying $50 million a year for, I think it was a 7-year deal. And that deal was about to run out, and they announced we're not renewing it. Now, whether that is about them not needing it or about them not wanting to spend that money in the light of their losses in areas otherwise. And yeah, they're talking about, well, see this article. 28 filming location for Miracle on 34th Street was much later than 28. The Sound of Music definitely later. I was mentioning we did on the Genre Guys, although the airing order got screwed up, it's going to come out soon. Big Trouble in Little China. And when I was doing a show over there one time, when you break for lunch where they cater dinner on show night, they put up a bunch of tables somewhere, sometimes a rehearsal hall, sometimes a sound stage. And we go into this sound stage where they, go over to stage, whatever it was. And it's the entire set from Big Trouble in Little China with the neon Buddha and the escalator that James Hong rode. And we're sitting there having, catered chicken. But because they were finished with the movie, but they didn't want to tear it down because it was so expensive and fancy that maybe we can use it. The big set that was built over there in the later years was for Hello, Dolly, which was this huge New York at the turn of the century set that hit you when you came in. That's all pretty much gone now. But they were desperate to use it for anything. And I mean anything, to the point where I remember there was an episode of the TV show SWAT that started out with Steve Forrest and his SWATlings. And we'd like to thank the movie studio for letting us use their New York Street backlot to practice urban tactics for SWAT. It's like, well, any excuse. Now, if you look right, just where you were, where there's kind of some low-rise stuff on the left there at the corner of go left from there and then go up and over Olympic. Straight, right, take your arrow down where all those low-rise condos are, right to the right. Anyhow, that's where the Seaview dock was and where the tank that they did all the special effects for Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea were. And it's also where the life-size model of the Jupiter 2 from Lost in Space was when I was last there. And Peyton Place was done there, and Combat. And back when there was a whole backlot, they had French villages, and they had Arabian Night streets and all kinds of neat stuff. And I'll never forget, there was, when they first built see where it says Westfield Century City, that blue dot? When they first built that shopping center, there was a high-end restaurant that was called Century House. And the waiter would bring your check and thank you all for coming, and we don't take a century to come back, was their little standard line.
I love that.
And if you look right, let's stay where you were.
Oh, yep.
Well, we're doing all this fly around stuff, but right, those buildings on the other side of that's Santa Monica Boulevard, the double street, because the old red car used to run down it. And you see that brick building right there, just to the right of where it says Clementine?
Yes. Yep.
That's where my dentist was as a kid. And I sat there in the up floors of that, watching them tear everything down and build it up over the years. So I have some resonance for the neighborhood. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and that's why I think this. I mean, when I saw the headline, I was like, oh, this is a prime Lou story right here because we
Well, but
kind of
then, of
grew
course,
up in it.
if ever the use of it as a movie studio was in question, the real estate is worth, well, more than Disney could afford. Let's put it that way.
That's it indeed.
Although I'm not sure that Murdoch's ever offered to sell them the actual land.
It's a fair point. Over the past year, Disney
When you
Entertainment
see this
Television.
thing, you know that all these great shows were done there, and the ones they pick are like The Mick and L.A. to Vegas. And I'm going, so who cares? But that's just me.
Indeed. Over the past year, Disney Entertainment Television has been actively working to create a creative hub where its production teams can work more closely together. And insider familiar with the rap.
Well, we want to have a hub where they work closer together. We want them to be on our property where we're not paying rent, is the subtext of that.
Yes. As part of the plan, Disney has decided to not renew its lease, and its team is based at the Fox lot are in various stages of relocating to workplaces in Burbank.
By the way, their lease doesn't run out till March, but they say they're going to be out of there by the end of the year. I mean, March of next year. So they're going to be gone early.
Right. They're
vacating lease payments through March, but of next year.
How many people do you think, Lou, are going to be impacted by something like this?
Oh, at least several hundred as far as the executives and people that are there. And then I really couldn't say, but it's a heck of a lack of a perk to have to drive all the way to Burbank from there every day to go to work, as opposed to, just being right there with Beverly Hills on one side and Brentwood on the other and Santa Monica just down the road.
Yeah, so you could see like where it's located. It's a much more ideal location than on the other side of this.
On the other hand, if you live in the valley, it would have been a long way to come there. So these things even themselves out.
They do.
And let's not forget, there's other studios out there too. Obviously, MGM's old lot, which is Sony and Columbia and all those other things. And then Amazon has its own facilities out in Santa Monica and several others. And then down in Manhattan Beach, there's that studio that basically began with all the legal shows, Boston Legal and Ally McBeal and all the rest of that. But
see right here, this is the Disney lot right now, and it's in terms of its presence, I have to look at it, but it's considerably smaller than I think Universal.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But by the same token, remember that they were going to originally build Disneyland there.
They were
right there where the freeway is, more or less. So
these things even out, don't they?
Yeah.
The animation building right there. You can see the ABC ABC television group building, which is mentioned.
And of course, just across the street to the left is where Walt died at St. Joseph's Hospital. So,
indeed, for sure. You can see the headquarters right here. So, just to give you a label.
Wondered how come everything Disney says Buena Vista? It's because the studio's on Buena Vista Street.
That's right. So Buena Vista Street, indeed, right there. But, so very cool. Very interesting how you're seeing the pieces kind of realign here. I did not. I guess I was not fully aware that Disney didn't own that property, but that makes sense, and how that might be impacting the decision more than they might let on.
Well, let us just say that had they been able to buy that land, it would have been a bigger price than what they paid for "quote unquote" Fox. That's how valuable that real estate is in that part of Los Angeles. So,
yes, absolutely. I mean, it's huge. It's Southern California real estate is a thing.
If you have to ask, you can't afford it, as they say. Well, and you know my story. I mean, I've seen it. There's a museum in Malibu called the Malibu Bay Museum that, among other things, has pictures of real estate ads from the 1920s for beachfront Malibu lots for $400, $200, $300. And my standard line is all these different science fiction movies about time travel. The only good reason to make a time machine is go back and buy real estate in Southern California.
Yes.
But
Yes, indeed.
well, I mean, I'll tell tales out of school. If you go back to your overhead,
Yep.
and you go a few blocks to the east of the studio,
Let's see.
see where it says Museum of Tolerance and all, just to the right there. Go to the right, and you see Beverly High, and in those residential areas just to the right of there. When I was in 6th grade, my parents, by the skin of their financial teeth, bought a 1924 Spanish colonial style house. It had been kept up, but it wasn't new, and it didn't have, and they bought it for $82,500. And when my parents finally sold it, they got $1.7 million for the same house. Okay. And moved to a condo just up the way that you can also see in this picture, right below where it says Maison 140 Beverly Hills, for $1.2 million that they sold for $1.9 million. And that's just the kind of weird, strange stuff that happens in Southern California in general, and particularly Beverly Hills. In fact, to give you an idea, the cachet that Beverly Hills has, if you go up from there, up to San Vicente, see there, Roxbury Park, we live just across the street, really, more or less. And everything below Wilshire, and that's Wilshire up there where the tall buildings are, was considered the, quote, poor part of Beverly Hills, because when we moved there, it was all the houses that were less than $100,000. So imagine that.
Man.
And then if you go up to the right towards West Hollywood, which comes next, up Santa Monica, that diagonal, you'll find that there's a Four Seasons hotel there, right? It was just at the bottom of the frame. Just go south. There. See the purple? Yeah.
Yep.
Four Seasons. See what it says, though. Four Seasons. What does it say?
Four Seasons Hotel Los Angeles at Beverly Hills.
At Beverly Hills. You know why? Because Beverly Hills starts across the street to the left. That's the border between West Hollywood and Beverly Hills. So they wanted to get the name Beverly Hills in there. So it's the Four Seasons at Beverly Hills.
That's a decent observation right there.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. Wow.
Anyway, we do this wandering around the map every single time, and I think we've done that. But they give you an idea. But anyway, the point is, don't cry for them, 20th Century Fox Studios. They're going to be in business there a long time. And you have to remember, that was Colonel Fox, who was Fox Productions, and merged with 20th Century, which is how it became 20th Century Fox. And if you really look close, the famous logo, with the 20th Century Fox with the lights, is as if it was on the roof of one of those sound stages there at the studio. So there you go. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I was not previously aware. That's look. I mean, this is a historic.
They've torn down pretty much everything from the old days. There used to be all these neat buildings on that lot.
Yeah.
There was like this funny kind of weird, spooky dooky house with a big peaked roof, kind of very Eastern European. And there was a building. Go straight down. See where it says sign shop? Yeah.
Yes.
But go to that little building just beyond the first stage there. See that little building there with the chimney? The north side of it, which we can't see in this angle, was made to look like a bank. They had kind of an awning and an ATM and stuff. And man, that was on Batman every other week, it seemed like. And
really?
But all of this has been torn down and rebuilt and redone and changed.
Interesting.
And then if you really want to get obscure with going back to our Naked Gun discussion, go continue down Pico to the left, south of us here. And right along in that stretch was the building that was the Kentucky Fried Theater, where Abrams and Zucker and Abrams and Zucker and Abrams and Zucker had their original little live playhouse. That's Temple Isaiah, where I was bar mitzvahed. Right. And my old hood. We're talking about LEW'S hood here. Those were the days. And Rancho Park Golf Course, KFC. The Stalking Horse Brewery. I never saw that. That's since I left. Where's it? Something that just says food? Look at that right there in the middle at Prospect and Pico. Food.
Yes, it does say just food. That's
Food.
funny.
Come here
With
for food.
all
We
in
need
capital letters.
food.
Well,
All right. Anyway,
the thing that I wanted to bring up regarding all this, couple things. One, do you think any productions will be impacted by this move?
no. If
Okay.
Disney needs another stage, they can rent one there, just like they can anywhere on a per production basis, rather than having a lock.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So no.
Now,
The stuff that's there now, which is the Simpsons writers' room and production offices are still there, and a lot of the Fox Sports and Fox News and FX, that's all still there. So no biggie. No
fair
biggie.
enough. Fair enough. Simpsons right there, by the way.
There you go, the Simpsons.
The and FX networks right there. The thing that I wanted to bring up that kind of plays into this a little bit is obviously productions we know in LA have been going down precipitously. We actually get a good view of this right here.
There's a lot of coverage of this all of a sudden, and you might wonder why. Well, it isn't like it suddenly fell off in the last couple of weeks. What's happening is that the California legislature is debating increasing the incentive program, the tax breaks, just like we talk about the tax breaks in England and in the South and all over the place in Canada. Well, California is okay, but it's not on a par with the others. And they're saying, well, we need to up it to bring production back, which sounds great, except it's been off so long that a lot of people have moved to those other places because you see, if you're in LA and your official production center is LA and you're a director, a grip, whatever, and they hire you to do a show in, I don't know, let's say Vancouver or New Orleans or wherever, Atlanta, they have to pay you what's called distant location rates, and they have to pay you transportation, and they have to pay you a per diem to eat on and to stay on, and they'll tell you sort of on the sly, listen, here's the deal. We'd like to have you be our key grip, but we can't pay all that stuff. So what you do is you go rent an apartment there or find a cousin to have an official residence there and walk up to our office there and get hired as a local where we don't have to pay all that stuff and you'll get work. Well, when that happens for long enough, that's what's happened to a lot of people in Atlanta and its environs is because there was so much work there. That I don't think I want to go back. And besides that, lower taxes, cheaper real estate, nicer place to raise my family. Even back when I was making a lot of shows, a lot of grips, electricians would buy a house way the hell out in Palmdale or Lancaster. And yes, that's true, SG. But they would buy a house out there, and then that's where they'd live because it was cheaper and better quality of life, they felt. But during TV season, they would rent a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment and everybody would stay over from Monday through Friday or whatever it was and go home on the weekends. And SG, put that back up again. SG, stuttering guitarist, our friend, said a lot of red tape and debt hurdle. Well, yes, of course. Of course. I don't know if you saw this, but in this terrible fire and the effort to rebuild, either the city or the state hired some consultant for $10 million to try and speed the process of rebuilding. And they have so far, in however many months it's been, granted 6 permits for how many hundred houses were burnt. And, so.
Well, it's kind of like with
the levels of red tape and the traffic and the crime and all the rest of it says what it said to me going on 7 years ago, which is get the hell out of Dodge. So.
It's kind of like a Lahaina where that fire had taken place. Everything burned down. I think there's only been 4 structures or something like that. I mean, just some incredibly low number considering how many houses and buildings there were. This is kind of why I bring up the LA in ruin kind of thing, because it's just a double whammy. Everybody was like, okay, survive to 25. Well, this it's just 1-2 punch here. LA soundstage occupancy declined to a new low of 63% in 2024 with no signs of improvement despite Jazz 10K at
That's one
Variety.
away that picture.
Yes. Over the last year and a half, local film and television productions in the state had been on a steady decline. In January, Film LA reported how permit applications had plummeted due to the LA fires, but the city remained open for business. This comes after a challenging 2
And
years due to a reduction in global content
by
production
the
and
way,
double industry strikes of 2023.
a little history about what Film LA is. Back in the day, if you wanted to shoot in Santa Monica, you needed a permit from Santa Monica. If you wanted to shoot in Culver City, you needed a permit from Culver City, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because Los Angeles is not, the county is, but the cities are checkerboarded all over the place.
Right.
So they created Film LA to make a one-stop permit shop to try and streamline things to make it easier. And it worked for a while, but surprise, all good things come to an end.
In 2023, a total of 1,225 projects filmed in the 477 stages included in Film LA's analysis. These projects generated 8,671 SSD, fewer than were recorded in any study period except 2020 when the COVID-19 pandemic halted operations.
Now let's look at the next paragraph for an interesting use of statistics. Episodic television series accounted for only 20%. But let us remember, if you want to compare this to the back side of COVID and everything else and pre-streaming, once upon a time, a standard series of a TV show was 33 episodes or 34 episodes, and then it went down to 22 and 24. Now it's what, 8, 10? So if nothing else changed, that's that many fewer days on the stage and that many fewer days of work for people. So it used to be, if you were a grip or an electrician, there's an interesting little wrinkle in the pension and health plans of the IATSE workers, the below-the-line workers. If you work as a director or a writer or an actor, to qualify for your health plan and your pension plan, to vest, as they call it in those businesses, and every other business with a pension and health plan for that matter, it's a dollar figure that you have to make. But for IATSE, it's an hour figure. So in the old days, if you got a TV series as a key grip or an electrician or a gaffer or whatever, and they were going to do 22, 24, 26 episodes, you basically needed a pilot or two or a couple of days on a commercial to make your number and qualify for the year for you and your family. But now, when there's only 8 or 10, how many hours less is that? And so there's all kinds of consistency. It's like with the writers. The writers put this deal through that said, oh, we're going to get a lot more writers because we're going to guarantee that if they want to go to a writer's room and explore the possibilities of somebody's idea for a TV show or a movie, they got to hire, I think it was 12 people for a certain number of weeks at minimum. Well, maybe the idea isn't worth 12 people at a certain number of weeks at minimum. And maybe the risk of spending that and having everybody come to the conclusion, it doesn't work after all, is worth not bothering. And so it sounded great. Oh, we're going to guarantee you more people working for more time, unless they're not working at all. So if you don't think people crunch these numbers and figure this stuff out, unless maybe if they work at Disney where numbers don't seem to mean anything. People do. This is not rocket science. We have brilliant unit production managers and producers and people who do this for a living as good as whatever you do out there for your living. And if it don't compute, it don't work. And by the way, as I keep saying, and people hear me and they say, oh yeah, fine. All of these subsidies, all of these perks, all of these tax breaks that cities and states and provinces and countries give to production, the theory behind them is that will employ our people. That will give our people not just the crews, but the people who supply the grip equipment or the props or the storage or the office workers in the soundstage, whatever. That'll give them jobs. With those jobs, they'll pay income tax, and net, the local economy will benefit more than what they're losing by giving the tax breaks.
Hmm.
The same theory is presented when they want to give a subsidy to a new stadium or something of that nature.
Right.
Guess what? It doesn't work. Every single one of these things creates less revenue in taxes by people working. It's great that people are working. That's fine. That's politically viable. But if you want to say, well, it's a scientific economic reality, it don't work, gang. It just don't. And let's remember also when we see all these numbers on things like Disney and Marvel and all those that shoot in England, and oh, well, we know they spent this much money because that's what went into the tax filings. Because here they don't have to publish those publicly. Um, Guess what? That's not the stars. That's not the director. That's not the executives back in the studio or
Yep.
their secretaries or their permanent staff of any kind. That's strictly the people hired for days on that production. And by the way, when we go back and do a reshoot, do you think Rachel and Robert Downey and all these people just say, sure, I'll be there? No, they say, how much are you going to pay me?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Anthony Mackie's a great guy, but shooting on this Captain America for years, he made a lot more money than he ever thought he was going to make when he signed to do the job, because he didn't know they were going to add months of so much a day or so much a week or whatever his
Right.
deal was.
Mhm.
And let's remember that whatever his deal is on the back end for percentages or residuals or whatever is not going to be affected by how many days it took to shoot it. So that's
Indeed. I mean, that's the thing. Like when you have reshoots to the tune of maybe what is it? I don't even know how many days of reshoots that Snow White actually encountered.
Nobody
but
knows.
We know it was significant. And so
Yeah.
when you talk about bringing back Gal Gadot or Rachel Zegler or anybody else outside of that predetermined shooting schedule for actual production, then obviously those are gigs that Rachel Zegler or Gal Gadot are setting aside in order to facilitate those reshoots, and so you have to pay a premium for that. That's also too why I think Disney didn't want to necessarily put this out in streaming, even though they knew maybe that this was going to do well theatrically, because a lot of points and so forth are attached to that theatrical run, like you mentioned before with Scarlett Johansson. It's imperative that these things take place in the theaters in order to facilitate those deals that they have with both the talent, above the line talent, and also for the theaters themselves. So it's just it's a mess for sure. The Variety article goes on to say that the United Kingdom, New York, Georgia, and Ontario, Canada have all more than doubled their stage-based production capacity over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So that's where we're going there. And like you said before,
and remember, it's not just the physical stages; it's the services. Remember that
Yeah.
stupid case where somebody was complaining about Stallone on something that was shot in Atlanta? It was an agency for extras, which didn't exist in Atlanta until production got big. Grip companies. And now you see, for example, in the Directors Guild, you literally have to state your home base so they know where do you get paid distant and where don't you.
interesting.
I see Stuttering Guitarist asking, Lou, how hard is it to do a street scene in New York in terms of permits? Permits relatively easy, but on the other hand, the mafia didn't want The Godfather for a while until they kissed their right butts. So a lot of things can happen on the streets of New York that have nothing to do with permits or anywhere for that matter. And it's just not the same. I mean, I remember there was a joke soap opera TV show called what was it? Fresno, and they shot it in Vancouver, and you could tell. You could tell.
Yeah.
What you were looking for.
I think Jonathan Hensley, who was the writer for Die Hard with a Vengeance, talked about setting, that film in New York City and how it was a difficult process to film within the city limits. But if you can do it outside, then you're pretty much good to go there, which was a interesting commentary at the time.
Either way, obviously, a big city has traffic issues and parking issues and all the rest of that. So,
Indeed, for sure. I want to go ahead and
the zone, and for God's sakes, we did that to death.
hey,
How can I tell that last picture was Warner Brothers class? class. Aside from the hill in the back,
Mhm.
it's the color of the stages.
Oh,
And
it's a
of
good
course,
point. It's a good point right there.
I walked that walk and talked that talk. But if it was
uh,
Universal, they'd be gray. You see,
they would
and
be
if it was
gray.
uh, Fox, they'd be a little more gothic. And anyway.
I thought you said something very interesting when talking about Universal. This
Oh, I
is
hope so.
obviously the Universal lot,
What did I
and
say?
well, you said Universal's looking a little bit like geniuses now that they've dedicated more of their previous backlot or production sound stages, or their production facilities to theme park space, and I think that's exactly correct
Yeah.
because theme parks are on the rise. Production in LA, not so much.
On the other hand, part of this massive building they're doing, as far as expanding the hotels and the new hotel and all that, is
Mhm.
anticipating the Olympics, which is a fine thing. But it's still LA, which means it's expensive to get there. It's expensive to be there. It's expensive to stay there. The gas you put in your rental car is more expensive. So all of those factors that are mitigating against a Disney Orlando vacation are going to happen in LA if they're not already happening too. So we shall see for the long term. Let's remember, if you look at City Walk there, those two kind of horseshoe-shaped buildings that are facing in on that circle, when they built that, the upstairs of all those buildings was UCLA extension classrooms.
That's
That's all
wild.
they could get for people to rent that space.
That
So,
that is much different than it is
oh, they
nowadays. That's
didn't
for
have a lot
sure.
of money to spend. So, uh,
I believe if you want to learn more about what's going on for the future of Universal Studios Hollywood, I think Theme Park Wizard was telling me that he's going to be featured in SF Gate pretty soon, going over a whole litany of different things that they're doing here in the next 5 years or so, based on permit filings and other things. So very, very cool. We're definitely going to have a lot of coverage on that park place as well. Speaking of coverage, I wanted to go ahead and mention this right here. So, Go and Shogi, the D23 tour at Disney Studios is actually very well done. A lot of really cool history on display. I agree. He provides a super chat for $10. What's frustrating is the device they created in order to film the original Snow White. I believe the multiplane camera
multiplay, yeah.
is on full display in Disney Studios. They had to walk past it every day to make their live action Abomination. Here's the thing, Go and Shogi. They filmed primarily Snow White, 2025, that is, in the UK.
Yeah.
So they technically didn't have to pass by it every single day. Maybe that was one of the reasons
It was
why.
just some stupid old retro machine. I mean, my God, weird,
Yeah.
weird.
Weird. Yeah. There's that famous quote by somebody. I forget.
Hey, it just occurred to me.
Please.
Disney has utterly altered the universe because the old expression, those who fail to remember history are doomed to repeat it. Well, no, they're doomed to fail when history was a success, apparently.
That's a good.
It just came to mind. I thought, wait a minute here. And
It's
of course,
perfect.
what we're looking at there on the Disney lot, there used to be an Old Town Street and a Western Street and a bunch of other stuff. And then, of course, they had up at the Golden Oak Ranch, they had the Triple R, Spin and Marty, and all that stuff.
There's a great. You sent me a great YouTube video on that, by the way. Of I think it was a wonderful little color episode that kind of explored the backlog there. That's kind of a fun one. I believe it was for was it for?
You talking about the one that about the party for Babes in Toyland?
Yes, Babes in Toyland.
Yes. It was an episode of Disney that was, hey, we're having a party, and you go through, and the guard sends you the wrong way, and they make it look huge, but it was never huge. It was
never that big.
As opposed to Warner Brothers, which used to be a lot bigger, but they sold off pieces of that. In fact, go down the freeway to the left to Warner Brothers.
Yes, let's go ahead.
I remember doing an episode of a show in the parking lot over the river from Warner Brothers, and we were supposed to be. It was Lynn Swan and a bunch of other people. We were doing a tailgate party at a stadium, in theory, and yeah. Good old WB.
Man. Wild stuff.
But
Wild.
all that greenery to the right and those houses, that used to be more of the backlot. They had a whole train that ran around there.
Really?
Yeah, there was a steam train on the Warner Brothers lot that worked. Those were the
Whoa.
days. Most of that section there that's making like a rounded triangle between the freeways and the river. That was all the backlot at Warner Brothers at one time. Because let's remember, when these guys bought this land, they didn't buy it because, it's the heart of the valley. It's a great location. No, they bought it because it's the heart of the valley. It's cheap.
Yes.
Yes.
Let's acquire as much backlot real estate as possible, and then obviously we'll.
Well, because obviously shooting on the backlot was cheaper because there it is, and you've got it. And of course, Samuel Goldwyn, who didn't really have a backlot on his lot, his famous line was, "A rock is a rock, a tree is a tree. Shoot it in Griffith Park." So
that's it.
Which is where, with the Bronson caves, which is where the Bat Cave still will be in anybody's heart and mind.
And we went over the TMZ and those filming locations and prior episodes of Hollywood Backlot with Lou, which you can check out on this channel. Which, by the way, good reminder, if you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel.
Yes, and hit the likes, for God's sakes.
Hit the likes button.
We need your likes. And if you don't like it, don't tell anybody. If you like it, tell your friends. If you don't like it, don't tell anybody.
If you didn't like myself or Lou, my name is Figment. This is the Dream Finder over here, and this has all been your imagination.
What about science? One little spark of inspiration lies at the heart of all creation. Doing my best Chuck McCann Dream Finder voice there.
It sounds good, though. It sounds good. It sounds great.
I'm pretty good at that one. But Josh is mentioning all of these videos that are now coming out on Epic. In fact, Vash and I were talking about it earlier before the show, Josh, and about one guy did a very wonderfully detailed one of Darkmoor, and it was great. But it's very clear that land is going to be much cooler at night than it is in the daytime, because it's great, but it's monochromatic on purpose, and at night with lighting and shadows and mist and all, that'll be superb, especially with those electric effects on it.
It's gonna be phenomenal. We will have more coverage on Epic Universe on what's been going on and everything that's been transpiring there for the media event and so forth on T3PO Live on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be right following the Pro Show.
Don't miss it.
So if you're watching the Pro Show anyway, just stick around. Be redirected right to there. And
get another beverage and come back.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's what we do.
2 shakes of a lamb's tail. It'll be right there waiting for you. Let me see here.
Has anybody ever counted how many shakes a lamb's tail have? Every time I hear a lamb's tail now, I think of what's his name? Fievel, a something tail. Anyway,
indeed. Let me see where I can send everybody here.
Where can you send everybody?
Yes.
You send me.
I unfortunately nobody's streaming live at the moment. Go ahead and
shame on them. What, are they actually spending a Sunday off with their families?
Yeah, that's crazy. Why would you ever do that? Let's see. Let me go ahead and send.
When Chogi says he looks like Dreamfinder, do you have the spats? That's the secret to the Dreamfinder. If you remember that scene at the end when you're going past him on the camera crane, and he's got those great spats.
Great spats indeed. Yes.
Those were the days.
Let's see here. Let me see.
I'll find us a winner. But
I'll find
if not, I will mention to everyone that the genre guys, I forget what's next here for the genre guys. My genre guy colleagues are getting a little impatient with you, by the way. You know that.
Yep. And they should be. They should, for sure.
I don't know. But anyway, we are recording tonight. We're supposed to record Saturday nights, but we pushed it for a day. Tonight we're doing Crimson Tide as kind of related tribute to the great Gene Hackman. And that movie, if you haven't seen it lately, or for some reason you've never seen it at all, I really want you to watch what Hackman does in that movie, because he is, quote unquote, the bad guy to Denzel Washington's quote unquote good guy, but he's not. And he's a hard ass, but he's a hard ass for a reason, because he realizes that if and when that submarine has to fulfill its mission and launch thermonuclear devices that are going to kill millions and come home to a world that doesn't exist, a lot of people on that boat are young and going to break down if they don't have good discipline. And so he's not trying to be a martinet because of ego. He's walking this very fine line between being everybody's captain as opposed to their friend, you know? And so that depth of figuring that personality out and making that work goes beyond what the script does. It's all about what he does. And then we recorded, and I don't think it's still come up yet, but I suppose it will soon. As I mentioned, Big Trouble in Little China. And this week, I think finally Looker got up. And what else came up this week? Overall, when I say came up or got up, it's all over if you are a member. And many of you out there might be people who got gifted freebies and membership on the Pro channel and aren't quite sure what that gives you. Well, one thing it gives you is first run on all of the genre guys, of which we now have, what, 50, 60? My God, we're getting pretty...
It's up there. It's up there.
And then they come here 3 months later for the universe. But we're also going to be recording in tribute to the late, great Val Kilmer, Tombstone.
Yep.
And then we're going to do one of the most unique telling of the Arthurian legend, Excalibur, which we've seen that John Boorman film with Nicole Williamson as Merlin, and it's pretty great too. It's pretty wild for its era, I think, because everybody else was laughing at Monty Python in that era for the whole Arthurian legend, or at the musical version of Camelot. But man, Excalibur takes it a whole different way. Well, now, Jan, we try not to do the bad ones. Hangry insists sometimes because he's got a unique perspective and thinks it's funny for us to do things like, which we did, Battlefield Earth and stuff like that. But on the other hand, what's good? What's bad? I mean, like last week, we did, that's what just came up, Disney Robin Hood.
Yep.
And Lorne and Hangry love that movie, and I never liked that movie, and that's what makes horse races. So, you know, I just found the animation style so flat. The characters, the voices, Peter Ustinov and all the rest, Roger Miller doing the music.
That was post-Xerox era, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, that's what they did, is they used a lot of backgrounds from Jungle Book and other things and recycled them. And it just was, to my eye, we talked about the multiplane camera, it was very obviously a new character sitting on an old background. And I don't know.
I think it was
that Don Bluth era of game animation. And
after Sleeping Beauty, those animators were like, no. Like, we're finding a way to both reduce cost and make it easier on ourselves. So, you know, there was a while there where animation was a little flat.
The curse of xerography, or whatever you want to call it.
Indeed. George's The Giant Slayer is live, so I've set up the redirect right here, so everybody will be joining that show, which is already currently in progress right here. Thank you so much for joining us here at Hollywood Backlot with Lou and you. Like Lou was saying before, go ahead and definitely subscribe to this channel to see the Genre Guys after they've made their release on the
And
Pro
don't
show.
forget to send us questions.
Yes.
We wouldn't have to rattle on endlessly like this without any guidance if you guys gave us more questions. So,
some people like that. T3PUonline at yahoo.com is where you can send questions for us, so we can go ahead and take those on the show. And Lou has so many amazing stories and experiences. Trust me, we'll find the answer somewhere, that's for sure. And thank you so much for joining us right now. Hit the like button, definitely, for sure. Hit the subscribe button, like I said before. Hit the bell notifications to know when we go live, whether
and thank you, everyone,
live.
for your affectionate attitude towards my contributions to this whole extravaganza. Pro is always telling me that if I'm not on the shows for a while, they get lots and lots and lots and lots of contacts from people saying, "Where's Lou? Where's Lou?"
Yes.
And the answer is, I could, as I hope all of you do, I have a real life. And that's sometimes good and sometimes bad. And medical things at my age become interesting. But what can I say? I'm happy to share what I can with you, and I'm happy to be listened to. As some of you may not know, I approached another channel like this that shall remain nameless once upon a time and said, you guys are great, but you really don't have the inside dope. And they kind of patted me on the head and said, thanks a lot, but we're doing just fine. And that didn't happen here. So you go where you want it. And that's one reason why all of our channels here are, well, I don't know how serious it is, Jan, but don't worry. I have seriously great doctors who are going to fix it. So, they tell you, oh, it's no big deal. You're in the hospital for one night and everything is swell. But we do have to tell you, a few people die. So whatever. I've made my peace with the universe, and I'm glad I'm here too. And my genes say, based on the family, that I've got another 20, 30 years left, believe it or not. So we'll see who wins. Okay. We'll see who wins. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Jan. Thank you, everybody. Anyway, the point is, on the one hand, you all, and Deborah, you all, Revan, I'm not going to list everybody's name. I feel like I'm going, and you were there, and you were there. And some of it was nice, and some of it was nasty, like Wizard of Oz. But the point, if I have one at this stage, is that it's good to be appreciated. And at the same time, I can tell all these stories like they're new because, believe me, my wife's heard them all 12 times and she's sick of it. So, and rightly so. Anyhow, I'm delaying the inevitable. Let's go switch you over to something new and exciting. Tell Lou I love him. Well, tell Laura I love her. Another old song comes to mind. Thank you, everybody. Anyway, we'll see.
Let's get right to it.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Same bat time, same bat channel. That's going to be, 2 p.m. Eastern on Sundays and 2 live, 3 p.m.
o'clock on Tuesdays most of the time, and various other episodes of different shows we shall see. And
we shall see.
Guys.
Indeed. Let's go ahead and get you right over to George the Giant Slayer, already in progress. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a wonderful day.